Hi, I'm Susan Ingles, a consumer protection attorney with South Carolina Legal Services. In this presentation, I will be discussing the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Now, your credit report is, as we all know, very important, but it's important for many reasons, not just obtaining credit. Yes, it's a record of your credit activities, but it can also include identifying information about you that is sometimes used for other reasons. Specialty credit reports are also out there, and they can include your employment history, criminal record, even things like paying rent on a lease. So when you go to get a new lease at a different place, you may find that they check your credit report from that standpoint and might turn you down if you do not have a good rental payment history. And businesses have credit reports as well. So why is it important? I think we all know how critically important it is in this modern era. Lenders and insurance companies will use it to decide whether to give you a loan or even insurance. Employers look at it when they're deciding whether to hire you, and other reasons as well. If you're having problems with your credit report, the Fair Credit Reporting Act can help. Here's some common problems. You have a charge on your credit report that you did not make, and they're refusing to delete it. Maybe you were denied credit on a loan because of charges on your credit report that don't belong to you. Or maybe you've even declared bankruptcy and had those debts discharged, but you're still seeing them on your credit report. We want you to know your rights. You have the right to get one free credit report from each of the 3 agencies every year. The FCRA is the primary law that addresses these credit reports. It has 3 primary purposes: ensure that accurate information is provided, safeguard your credit and your personal information, and also to give consumers the information that's being reported on them. When you request it, a credit reporting agency like Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax must clearly and accurately disclose all the information they have in your file, the sources of the information, identifying each person who has gotten a report on you in the last 2 years, and a record of all the inquiries that have been received within the previous year that identified you in connection with a transaction that perhaps was not initiated by you. But in order to get that information, you have to ask for it. Now, if you find something on your credit report, they must conduct a reasonable reinvestigation after they receive a dispute from you. They must delete or modify the information if it's inaccurate, incomplete, or can't be verified. That has to be done within 30 to 45 days if it's for a free annual report. And they have to send you those written results. Keep in mind, they must block information that you identify as resulting from identity theft. So here's what you have to give them if you are a victim of identity theft and you need to deal with that on your credit report. They need appropriate proof of identity, copy of an identity theft report, and that doesn't have to be a police report. It can be a report to a credit card company, for example. They must identify the information, and they need a statement from you that the information being provided is not related to any transaction that has something to do with you as a consumer. Once they receive all of that, the information must be blocked by the credit reporting agency within 4 business days. Now here's 4 things that should be, or 4 categories really, that should be excluded from your credit report. Information that's more than 7 years old, tax liens that you've paid that are more than 7 years old, bankruptcy cases more than 10 years from the date of discharge, and then civil suits, judgments, arrest records, etc. that were released more than 7 years before the report, whichever is longer. Okay, correcting your credit report. As we've said, there are 3 main national consumer credit reporting agencies. There are also some specialty reporting agencies that aren't listed here, but they are also subject to the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So, for example, if incorrect negative information is provided to a potential landlord that you have, a potential employer that you have, and the information's incorrect, you have the same rights to challenge that as you do these 3 CRAs. You can see here they get information in many different ways. They might pull court records, they might have companies who report credit issues to them, and any other companies issuing credit. They don't necessarily have the same information, because they may work with different companies that provide the information. They have different programs that they use. So when a business pulls your credit report, there's a vast database that comes from, and all of your personal identification is there, such as name, address, etc. So it's quite easy for there to be incorrect information. So to correct your credit, step 1, get a copy of the report, as we've talked about. And keep in mind, when you're denied credit, and you'll get a notice in the mail that tells you are entitled to a free report within 60 days of that denial. So if that happens, be sure and get that report, because it's free in that circumstance. Number 2, locate the causes of the credit mistakes. It could be a legitimate error. It could be fraud. It could be mistakes on data entry, merging information improperly, and so forth. For example, it might have 1 digit wrong on your Social Security number, and that can cause all kinds of problems. If there's an error by the creditor, and these are just several causes of these credit mistakes. The creditor may furnish improper information from their database. Mistake number 2. An incorrect name or Social Security number input by the creditor can go to the wrong consumer file. Mistake number 3, a collection agency error. So you may have a creditor on a particular debt, but they're having a collection agency collect that, and maybe that collection agency reports incorrect information. And this happens sometimes intentionally by collection accounts to urge you to make a payment. But it can't be reported over and over. Mistake number 4 is possible that the credit reporting agency or CRA has made an error. Sometimes we see a junior-senior relationship, like Joe Jones Sr. has a judgment against him, but his son, Joe Jones Jr., has perfect credit, except that the judgment that is really against Joe Jones Sr. somehow shows up on Junior's credit report, and that can cause problems. But another type of mistake, number 5, is public records error. It's not unusual. Hopefully the public records are correct, but sometimes if you check those records, there may be an error. For example, in an eviction case, maybe an eviction was filed, but the tenant came forward and showed that indeed they had paid their rent and they weren't behind in rent, and so the eviction was dismissed. Well, that means you were not guilty of not making your rent payment. But if your credit report says eviction, and it is set forth as an eviction where you were found to have not paid, then that's going to affect your credit score. Step 3 in correcting your credit is to just always document everything. Certainly the creditors do. They have vast computer records with every time that they've talked to you, every letter that they've sent to you, information that they've received from you, and so forth. So it's important that you do the same. And also, when you make the dispute, it needs to be in writing. You don't want to contact the credit reporting agency and dispute by phone, because then you have no proof that you disputed it. You should send everything in writing by certified mail, return receipt requested. And here's some of the things that you should do in the dispute letter. Show your concern that this is truly an error on your credit report. And if you need the help of an attorney to do so, certainly you can apply for our services here at South Carolina Legal Services, where we provide free representation to eligible low-income citizens and others. Number 2, accurately track the case. There can be a whole lot of people involved in your dispute, and you need to make sure that everybody that you talk to along the way, you make a note of, you get their information, you get their name, and so forth. And this can be helpful on down the road, especially in an identity theft or fraud case. You want to have every document that is connected to any dispute with your credit report. And again, this makes the companies and any other entity that you may come in contact with in the dispute process, they know you're serious and you're got the all of the timeline to show that. You want to trigger a legal effect. And there are some obligations that these credit companies have that are not triggered unless and until you provide that written dispute. Step 4. Send the dispute letters. Send the letters directly to the credit reporting agency to put them on notice. They should be, again, mailed, return, receipt requested, certified mail. Where do you send them? Now, of course, you send it to the credit reporting agency, but you also want to furnish that copy to whatever creditor you had that has furnished that information that you're disputing. So, for example, if you have ABC Credit Card Company that has provided incorrect information on your credit report, you send a dispute letter to Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion, or maybe all three, But you also need to send a copy of that dispute letter to ABC Credit Card Company. And that way they know about it and they can be looking into it before they even receive it from the CRA. Here's just some general information about disputing credit errors and what the style and content of your dispute letter should look like. As much detail as possible is very important. A little bit more on dispute letters. You may want to attach a copy of the credit report that you're looking at that has that incorrect information on there that you're disputing. And if you've requested verification, you'll want to do that. And also any demands that you had to send corrected information. To find out more about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, there are many online resources, and most of those include sample dispute letters. So here's some of the resources that are out there. The Federal Trade Commission, which is ftc.gov, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is consumerfinance.gov, and then, of course, right here in South Carolina, our South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs, consumer.sc.gov. And also I want to mention that the Federal Trade Commission has a helpful website, which is here, identitytheft.gov, and they have a wonderful booklet that walks you through how to correct issues that you've had because of identity theft. It walks you right through a great recovery plan. If you need representation, or if a credit reporting agency or creditor is reporting false information about you, you can contact South Carolina Legal Services to see if you're eligible and whether or not we can represent you. You can apply by telephone or you can apply online. Also, we have a website called lawhelp.org/SC where we have materials and resources that you can use on this and on other topics of law that we cover. So definitely visit our website and call us if you need to apply for our assistance in a credit reporting matter or other matters that we cover. Thanks for listening.